Hi ladies and gentlemen, fellow traders, welcome to another episode of Weekly Forex Outlook with Chart Engineering Pro. We really appreciate you for taking the time to watch this video, and we do not take you for granted at all. If you haven't yet subscribed or are new to this channel, kindly hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on any content we post here. And if you also find value with what we share here, be sure to like, drop your comments, share your views, and share this video to your fellow traders or anyone who would find this information useful. Without wasting much time, let's have a quick recap of last week's setups discussed in our previous video before we dive into next week's analysis. So stay tuned. This is AUDUSD. Last week we were anticipating that price was going to pull back into any of these two areas of interest to give us a buying opportunity to the upside. We didn't get that opportunity to take this buy, and price just went ahead and just blasted through the TP1 and is almost heading to the TP2. So we couldn't get the opportunity to jump onto this trade. So it was a trade that was missed. And then we also have here Euro AUD, Euro AUD. We were anticipating that price was going to pull back into any of these two areas of interest to give us a selling opportunity. Price actually pulled back to the second area of interest, but the confirmation was not enough. But if we were supposed to take this trade, this was going to be the entry. This was going to be when we had the bearish engulfing candle. This would have been the entry. The SL would have been above this candle, and then we're going to target these two targets we have here. So if we were able to take this trade, this would have been our entry at this 4-hour engulfing candle, and we actually missed it. So it was a missed trade. Let's see what we have for the economic calendar for the coming week. So next week we don't have any high impact news on Monday and Tuesday. On Wednesday we have the AUDCPI, and later in the day we're going to have the Canada Bank of Canada's Bank of Canada's monetary policy report, and then Bank of Canada's rate statement and overnight rate. There's also going to be the FOMC for the USD later that day, this happens to be the very first FOMC for the year, and the interest rate is expected to stay at the 3.75 basis points, but let's see how it goes for the week. And on Thursday we're going to have the unemployment claims for the USD. On Friday we have the GDP for CAD, and then core PPI for USD. So let's see what we have for the coming week. Let's jump to the charts for the coming week. So we have here DXY. So last week we were anticipating that price was going to shift this daily structure. We have this daily structure here. Price actually shifted the structure, and we were expecting that price was going to pull back above this structure and give us a selling opportunity, or give us a retest of this structure and give us a selling opportunity. Price made its way almost there and then took off. So we were not able to get the selling opportunity as we anticipated from last week. So going into next week, we'll be looking forward to a possible pullback into these areas of interest to give us selling opportunities downside. So going into next week, we're expecting a possible pullback into this first area of interest to target this target, or should price pull back above the second area of interest, we will still be interested in looking for the selling opportunities to the downside. So these are our various targets. We'll be targeting this one as our first target, TP2 and now TP3 down here. So we are very bearish, extremely bearish on DXY for the coming week. On a daily, weekly, monthly perspective, it's bearish. So it's be expedient of us to look for bearishness on DXY. This can only be invalidated if price is able to make its way above this zone and break above and continue upside, which doesn't look possible for now. So we are going to be interested in looking for the sales for the coming week. We have here EURUSD. There was a similarity with EURUSD. Price broke this daily structure here, So we're anticipating that price is going to pull back a bit deeper into the area of interest, or the day to retest the daily structure and give us a push to the upside. Price made its way there, but it took off very quickly, and we couldn't get this opportunity to enter this trade, and it hit the very first TP, and it's almost heading towards the second TP. So going into next week, these are the possible scenarios we'll be looking out for. We're looking out for a possible pullback into this area of interest. The first one, look for buying opportunities to the upside. Should price pull back into the second area of interest below, we'll still be interested in taking the buys from here to the upside. These are the first two targets. Third target is above. So this is our third target, and we'll be looking out for this for next month. So we're looking out for how price is going to close for this month. If we're able to get a monthly candle breaking above these highs, then we'll be looking out for a possible pullback to the area of interest that will be created after next week closes, or after this month closes. They will look for buying continuation to this third target we have above here. Until then, these are our very first two targets we'll be looking out for the coming week. So we are very bullish on EURUSD. This can be invalidated if price is able to break this structure here, or this zone here, and continue downwards, which looks impossible for now. We also have here GBPUSD. GBPUSD is extremely bullish on the monthly, weekly, and daily perspective. GBPUSD is extremely bullish. So going into next week, we are looking forward to a possible pullback into this area of interest, and we look for buying opportunities from here to the upside. Should price pull back a bit deeper to the second zone below, we'll still be interested in looking for the buys to the upside. So we are extremely bullish on GBPUSD. The price can only shift bearish if we get a daily candle closure up below this structure point, and we get a retest, and we continue downside. Until then, we are extremely bullish on GBPUSD for the coming week. Sorry. We also have here USDCAD. USDCAD is giving us a formation, a butterfly formation, which this is our X, this is our A, the A leg, this is the B leg, this is the C leg, and a possible D leg down here. So last week we got this nice double top right here. Let me take off this one for now. We got this nice double top here, which we were anticipating that price was going to give us a retest of the neckline of this double top and give us a selling opportunity downside. Price never made its way there and kept tanking below. So going into next week, we'll be looking forward to these possibilities. Should price pull back into this area of interest to give us a selling opportunity, we're going to take ourselves from here to the downside. Should it also pull back a bit higher to this area of interest we had from last week, we'll still be interested in looking for the sales to the downside to this very target we have here as the butterfly potential reversal zone. So this will be our target for the sales if we're able to catch it on USDCAD for the coming week. So we are very bearish for the coming week. This can only shift bullish if we get price breaking above these structures, or should price also break above this daily structure here, we're looking out for the bullish side for USDCAD. We have here USDCHF. USDCHF also had a similar formation just as we saw on EURUSD. We had this daily structure shift here, for which we are anticipating that price is going to pull back into this area, or retest this daily structure and give us a selling opportunity. Price was few pips shy away from the area of from the structure point, and it kept selling downwards. So we couldn't get any clear opportunity to join this sell to the downside. So going into next week, we'll be looking forward to a possible pullback into this very first area of interest, and we target these targets we have below. This will be our TP1, TP2, and our TP3. Should price pull back a bit higher to the second zone above, we'll be interested in taking the sales to the downside. Should price break above this structure point and continue upside, then we're going to consider USDCHF bullish, which it looks very unlikely. So we are extremely bearish on USDCHF for the coming week. Price can also retest this daily structure we have here and continue downside. So we are very bullish on USDCHF for the coming week. Price can also retest this daily structure we have here, continue downside. So we are very bullish on USDCHF for the coming week. Price can also retest this daily structure we have here, continue downside. So we are very bullish on USDCHF for the coming week. Price can also retest this daily structure we have here, continue downside. So we are very bullish on USDCHF for the coming week. Price can also retest this daily structure we have here, continue downside. So we are very bullish on USDCHF for the coming week. Price can also retest this daily structure we have here, continue downside. So we are very bullish on USDCHF for the coming week. Price can also retest this daily structure we have here, continue downside. So we are very bullish on USDCHF for the coming week. Price can also retest this daily structure we have here, continue downside. So we are very bullish on USDCHF for the coming week. Price can also retest this daily structure we have here, continue downside. So we are very It's either this zone, these two zones we have, or we can get a retest of the daily structure, this particular structure we have here, continue selling to the downside. So we're looking out for these three areas of interest for our selling opportunities for USDCHF for the coming week. We also have here NZDUSD. For NZDUSD, we are extremely bullish. Last week we were anticipating that price was going to pull back to retest this structure point here, and price never made its way there. So going into next week, we are looking for a possible pullback into this area of interest to look for buying opportunities to the various TPs we have above, or the various potential reversal zones we have above. So we are extremely bullish on NZUSD for the coming week. These are various targets we have: the TP1, TP2, and the extreme one is going to be our TP3 above here. This can only be invalidated if we get a daily candle break below this structure or this zone and comes for a retest and continues to the downside. Until then, we are extremely bullish on NZUSD for the coming week. We have here GBPCHF, and GBPCHF is bearish on the weekly perspective. Bearish on the monthly and a daily perspective, and slightly bullish on the weekly perspective. So going into next week, we are going to look out for these possibilities for GBPCHF. So the very first possible scenario we have, price has actually reacted from a very strong area or area of interest above here, and we are looking forward to a continuation to the downside. So going into next week, we're looking at the very first scenario we're looking out for is a possible head and shoulder formation here. Should we get a 4-hour candle close or break this 4-hour structure here, and we get a possible pullback to give us a possible lower high or a possible right shoulder, we're looking out for selling opportunities to the downside to the various TPs we have below here. This is the very first scenario. The second scenario we can look out for is if we get a daily candle close below this structure point. Should we get a daily candle close below this daily structure point, and we get a pullback into this area or into this zone once again, we're looking forward to a selling opportunity to the downside. So we are very bearish on GBPCHF for the coming week. This can only be invalidated if we get price to break above this structure point or this daily structure or this zone above and continue to the upside. Until then, we are extremely bearish on GBPCHF for the coming week. We also have here EURCHF, and EURCHF is also currently very bearish, and to be appropriate for us to look out for sales instead of buys. So going into next week, we'll be looking out for a possible pullback into this very first area of interest and for selling opportunities to the downside. This will be our TP1 and our TP2. Should price pull back a bit higher into the second zone above, we will still be interested in looking for the sales to the downside to these two targets we have. Should price give us a very strong momentum to breaking through this second TP, price will likely head towards this TP3 as well. So these are our three targets we have in place for EURCHF for the coming week or weeks. So we are very bearish on EURCHF. This can only be invalidated if we get price break above this daily structure here and continue upside down. So then we are extremely bearish on EURCHF for the coming week. We also have here AUDCHF. AUDCHF, we had a nice shark pattern formation, a 4-hour shark pattern formation, and currently prices at a shark potential reversal zone. So for us to consider this bearish, what we're going to look out for is a daily candle closure or a daily structure shift here. Should we get a daily structure shift here, if we get a daily structure shift here, we get a possible pullback or possible lower high formation or right shoulder, we will look out for selling opportunities to the downside. So we are going to be very patient on AUDCHF and see how price plays out. If it doesn't drop, we will likely retest these structures we have here continue upside. So we're going to look out for, we just have to be patient and see how price develops this week on AUDCHF for us to decide on which position or which direction we are going to take our position. This is CHFJPY. So for CHFJPY, we have these two areas of interest for possible buys. Should price give us a buying confirmation in this very first zone, take our buys from here to the upside. Should it pull back to the second zone below and give us this similar buying opportunities, we'll still take the buy to the upside, targeting this very target we have here. Should price break below this structure point, here and comes for a retest, we'll look out for a possible sell to this very target we have below. So we are actually bullish on CHFJPY. But looking at how the JPY index is playing out, price might likely violate the zones and go for the sell for the meantime. We also have EURGBP. EURGBP is forming a very subtle head and shoulder formation, which doesn't look very clear, but it is. So this is a head and shoulder formation that is developing on EURGBP. This actually happens to be our right shoulder. Depending on which one you want to choose as the shoulder, this happens to be either our left shoulder or this happens to be the left shoulder. Whichever way we want to pick it. So this is our left shoulder. This is the head. This is the head, and this is the right shoulder that has formed here currently. So going into next week, it doesn't look very clear, but it is a possible head and shoulder formation. So what we're going to be looking out for, these are the various possibilities we'll be looking out for on EURGBP. Going into next week, if we get a possible pullback to retest this 4-hour structure, if we get a possible pullback to retest this 4-hour structure, we'll look out for selling opportunities and take it to the downside. Sorry. Or should we get a daily candle closure? The second possibility we should be looking out for, we can look out for, is if we get a daily candle closure below this zone. If we get a daily candle closure below this zone, if we get a daily candle closure below this zone and price comes for a retest back into the zone or a bit higher, we'll still be interested in looking for the sales to the downside. These will be our first two targets, and our ultimate target is going to be the zone we have below here. So we are very bearish on EURGBP. Should price continue to buy and break above these structures, then we'll consider EURGBP bullish. So then we are going to be very bearish till we get to these two targets or these three targets below. We have GBPAUD. So GBPAUD, last week we were anticipating a possible pullback into this area. We anticipated a possible pullback into this area to give us a selling opportunity to the various targets we have below. Price never pulled back to that area, and it's just kept selling. So going into next week, if we are fortunate to get a possible pullback into this area of interest, and we get selling opportunities around this zone, and look out for the sales to this very target that we have below here. So we are very bearish on GBPAUD for the coming week. We have your GBPCAD. So for GBPCAD, we are bullish on the weekly and then the daily. So what we'll be looking out for is a possible pullback into this very first area of interest. Look for buying opportunities to this very first target or the second target we have above. Should price pull back into the second zone below and give us the buying opportunities, we'll be interested in taking the buys to the upside. This can only shift bearish if we get price break below these zones and then comes for retest and continues downside. Until then, we are extremely bullish on GBPCAD for the coming week. We also have here GBPNZD and GBPNZD. On a weekly perspective is bearish, on a daily perspective is bearish. So going into next week, we'll be looking out for possible pullback into this first area of interest and look for selling opportunities. Having this as our TP1 in this zone as our TP2. Should price pull back a bit higher into the second zone above, we'll still be interested in taking the sells to the downside for GBPNZD. This can only be invalidated if price breaks above the structures and then continues to the upside. Until then, we are extremely bearish on a weekly and a daily perspective for GBPNZD. We also have here EURNZD. So last week we anticipated that price was going to pull back into this area of interest, the second area of interest we have above, to give us a selling opportunity. Price gave us a very slight pullback and just kept selling. So going into next week, if we get the possible pullback into this area and we get a selling opportunity to the downside, we will look out for those selling opportunities to the downside if price pulls back into this very first area of interest. So these are going to be our various targets. These are TP1, TP2, and our TP3 right here. Should price pull back a bit higher into the second zone above, we will still be interested in taking our sales from this zone and take it to the downside. This can only shift bullish if price is able to break above this right shoulder and continue upside. Until then, we are extremely bearish. We are extremely bearish on EURNZD. We have here AUDNZD. And for AUDNZD, last week we anticipated that price was going to pull back into this very first area of interest to give us buying opportunities. Price pulled back into the first area of interest and has given us a very nice momentum from the very first area of interest. So going into next week, we are going to look forward to a possible pullback into this area of interest. Or should price develop a reversal pattern, a double bottom, or an inverse head and shoulder, whichever formation we get around this zone, or should price even pull back into comes a bit deeper into the second zone and give us buying confirmations, we'll still be interested in taking the buy. But before that, we're going to look out for buying opportunities around here first before we consider the zones we have below. So we are extremely bullish on AUDNZD. This can only be invalidated if price breaks below this zone and continues to the downside. We have here the Brent crude oil or the UK oil. We anticipated that price was going to pull back into any of these two areas of interest to give us buying opportunities, and price just kept hovering around this zone and it just kept going up. So we were not fortunate to get the pullback here. So going into next week, should price pull back into this zone and give us buying confirmations, we will be interested in taking the buys from here to the upside. This will be our TP1 and our TP2. Currently we have a weekly structure shift here, and it's likely price can also pull back into the very two zones we're looking out for the pullback before price took off. So if that happens, if we're able to get that formation, if we're able to get that deep pullback, we're going to have an inverse head and shoulder formation. So this is going to be our left shoulder, this will be our head, this will be our possible right shoulder formation. So should price pull back a bit deeper into this zone, that's going to give us a possible right shoulder formation, and then we get our continuation to the upside. So we're going to be very, very patient with UK oil and see how price develops for us to look for our buying opportunities to the upside for the coming week or weeks. We have here the S&P500. So the S&P500 is bullish on the weekly and a daily perspective. Going into next week, we are looking out for a possible pullback into this area of interest, this first area of interest, and we are going to look out for buying opportunities. If buying opportunities, should price pull back here, and if price pulls back again to this second zone and give us buying opportunities, we'll be looking out for the buys with these very targets we have above. Should we get a pullback, or should price break below this daily structure, we'll be looking out for sales from here. So going into next week, we are very bullish on the S&P500 or US 500. We have here NASDAQ, and NASDAQ is still giving us some bullish momentum. So going into next week, we'll be looking out for a possible pullback into this zone to look for buying opportunities to this very first target, and our second target we have above here. So we are bullish on NASDAQ for the coming week. Should price clear this zone below, we'll be looking out for sales to the downside. Until then, we are very bullish on NASDAQ for the coming week. So this is US30, and US30 is also extremely bullish. So going into next week, we'll be looking out for this a possible buying opportunity from this zone to our very first, or our TP we have here. Should price pull back into the second area we have below, we'll still be interested in taking the buys to the upside for US30. Should price sell and break below these structures we have here, break below these structures and get a daily candle closure, we'll look for a possible pullback and look for selling opportunities downside. So until then, we are extremely bullish on the US 30 for the coming week, or the Dow Jones. We also have the France 40 price. Last week we anticipated that price was going to pull back all the way to this zone, but it looks very unlikely. Not knowing there was a nice area of interest around this zone, and price is currently giving us a nice reaction from the zone. So going into next week, if we get a double bottom formation like this, and we get a buying opportunity, we can look for buys from here to the upside. Should we get an inverted and shoulder formation, or should we get a possible higher low formation, we'll still be interested in looking for the buys from this zone to the upside. So this will be our very first TP, and this will be our second TP. So the last for the week, we have Bitcoin Cash, and Bitcoin Cash is forming a nice crab pattern, and currently price has pulled back into an area of interest. So what we'll be looking out for on Bitcoin Cash is a daily structure shift above this structure point. So this is, if we get a daily candle closure above the structure point, we'll be looking for it a possible higher low formation or a possible right shoulder formation. We look for buying opportunities to the potential reversal zone we have above here, or the potential crab pattern formation we have above here. So we'll be looking out for that. Should price violate this zone and sell or break this zone with a daily candle and count for retest, we'll be looking for the downside for Bitcoin Cash. Until then, we are still going to look out for the bullish opportunities for Bitcoin Cash. Thank you so much for sticking through to the end of this video. I really appreciate you for taking your time to be here. I will encourage all of us to apply proper risk management to our trades. We should trade safe and sound, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to your fellow traders, and I'll catch you on another episode. Take care of yourself and have a wonderful and a profitable week ahead. Bye bye.